Hi, I'm reporter David Perez on the scene with Luke Poppy Carey, CEO of Poppy's Coffee. He's here to explain to us his new global coffee phenomenon. Luke.
Thanks, David. Well, with Americans consuming on average 4 million cups of Joe daily, coffee is quite the phenomenon here in the United States. And recently, popular shops have adopted a new process of coffee production called cold brew.
Poppy, what is cold brew?
So cold brew is basically where beans are slow brewed at cold temperatures over the course of many hours or overnight. And this results in a more tasteful coffee of lower acidity and lack of a lot of the pesky impurities brought on by traditional heat in regular coffee production methods.
So how is your cold brew process different than someone else's?
Oh, that's a great question. Of course, the issue with traditional cold brew is that it takes a lot of time, hours or overnight. And here at Poppy's Coffee, we developed a revolutionary way to brew delicious, high-quality cold brew in minutes using the principles of thermodynamics. Our head of research, Jason, will take you through some of the science behind just how we get the best cup in less time than it takes you to say Poppy's Coffee.
Thanks, Poppy. So the science behind vacuum cold brewing. So typically water is in a liquid form simply because the internal vapor pressure of water is always less than the pressure of the environment. However, if you want it to boil, you can add heat into the system so that way the pressure of the water exceeds the pressure of the environment and turns into a vapor. What we're doing here in Poppy's lab is taking the pressure from the environment out of the system so that we can get the same result. This relationship can also be seen through the ideal gas equation, as because the specific volume of water does not change and R is a constant, we could decrease the boiling temperature of water by decreasing the pressure in the environment. And this can be seen here with this graph. We also use the heat transfer equation over here, as well as calculating the work from the pump itself, and plugging it into the first line equation to find the total amount of energy used in the process of cold brewing. And we could take the Q in from our heat transfer equation and add it to the work of the pump as it's typically subtracted by the work done by the system. All right, back to you, Poppy.
Thank you, Jason. So, Poppy, would you care to explain to us how this process works?
Oh, I'd love to. So over here on the right, we have our gas-powered vacuum pump. And this basically creates vacuum-like conditions within our desiccator here. Within the desiccator, we have our thermally insulated container, which will contain a well-proportioned mixture of our preferred coffee brand, Joe, and water. We have saran wrap on top just to keep everything well contained. And within a matter of minutes, you have a delicious cup of Joe ready to consume. We've perfected the process, and Jason will come explain more about the process, which we get the perfect cup of Joe.
Thanks again, Poppy. So the first thing we tried to find was the best coffee to water ratio for our cold brew. As you can see, pH decreases as coffee increases. And we found that 1.58 was the best ratio. Not too bitter, not too watery. Next, we tried to look at the effects of brewing temperature. As heat increases, the work by the pump decreases. This is because boiling pressures increase as temperatures increase. So the work needed to be done by the pump decreases to reach those boiling pressures. However, as you can see, the total amount of energy, the sum of the heat and work, remain relatively constant. So in terms of efficiency, they're all about the same. However, in terms of pH, as the temperature increases, the pH decreases significantly, thus causing the coffee to be more bitter. We found that 20 degrees Celsius was the perfect temperature for our cold brew. Finally, we looked at the effects of brewing time versus pH. And as you can see, the pH asymptotes at about 5.97 at about 10 minutes. So, how do you make the perfect cup of cold brew? Well, you need a 1.5 to 8 coffee to water ratio, about 20 degrees Celsius of water temperature, and about 10 minutes or more of brewing time. Some of the limitations that we have is that our pump only reaches 28.5 inches of mercury vacuum. Once we get a little bit more money for the shop, we could purchase more powerful pumps that can reach even lower pressures. And thus, we can start brewing at much colder temperatures and start seeing the effects of brewing at such cold temperatures. Back to you, Poppy.
Thank you, Jason. Mr. Poppy, how do you feel like your coffee compares to your competitors?
Oh, that's a beautiful question, David. Out here we can see litmus paper. Are you familiar with what that indicates?
I am not.
So litmus paper basically indicates the pH of a substance. On the far left here we have Starbucks, which is indicated to be a little bit too basic. Here we have Stoke Coffee, which is quite basic. Dunkin' proved to be a little bit too acidic. And our blend right here is optimized to be the perfect pH level, which we identified will translate to a delicious cup of Joe.
Wow, it seems like you really have the whole process figured out.
Yeah, and we actually have a couple clips today of people taste testing our coffee, and I think they'd agree.
Okay, so these are gross. This is good.
Okay.
That's fine.
Do you have a ranking?
For smell,
Yes.
1, 4, 3, 2. For
Okay.
taste, 3, 2, 4, 1. Do I get to
Almost
know
the
now?
complete opposite. Yeah. So number 2 was ours.
Okay.
I
liked
and
it.
then so okay.
So if I had to rank it best to worst, go 3, 2, then 1 and 4, like tied for the worst.
Oh, good.
2 smells the best.
Mr. Poppy, it looks like you have such a great thing going on here.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to show you my shop today.
Thank you so much for having me. To all our viewers out there, I hope you have a great rest of your morning.